And welcome to the Ask More Questions podcast. Today I have Evan Garcia. How are you doing today, Evan?
I'm doing supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, if
You know,
I say so myself.
that's a rough one. And I really like the creative team at Disney. If we could just take a quick side note, because you and I
Yeah,
were talking a little bit
yeah,
about how you like to geek out on movies, right?
yeah.
And so we're watching. My kid has been sick. He's better.
Oh,
I
dang.
think it's cold, flu, whatever. Who knows what
Mhm.
it is? COVID-6. The next iteration. And we decided to watch Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, like
Okay.
old OG, right?
Yeah.
The one with Gene Wilder. And as I watched it, I I looked at it through a different lens than I think I've probably seen this thing like four
Sure.
times, but I looked at it with a different lens and I was just like, man, they really went over the top on just imagination, thinking
Okay.
about things.
Yeah. Mm.
The script is amazing. Wilder was the absolute perfect choice
Yep.
for
Yep.
that film. Just the little things like the when he walks out, the cane gets stuck, and then he does a little somersault type thing.
I remember seeing that as a
Yeah,
kid and be like, something's
yeah,
gonna happen.
yeah, yeah. And then I got to reading deeper. This is almost like a biblical ideology. If you bear with
Sure,
me for a
sure.
second,
Hmm.
about the symbolism of the kids and about how that they were taken away from the chocolate factory, that they fell prey to their temptations, right? So like you've got the Mike TV, he's all about TV, but then of course TV is the little like the thing that shrinks him down to nothing. Like that's the
Right.
thing that takes
Yes.
him
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Augustus Gloop, it
They
really
all
likes, yeah.
have their thing.
They all have their thing, and then, but I was like, but what about Charlie? Like Charlie didn't, he took the fizzy lifting drink. That really wasn't like a thing for him, but it was his grandpa. His grandpa was bedridden the whole time.
Mm.
And then he takes the thing that allows him to fly, right? And then I was like, oh, and it was grandpa's idea to try the fizzy lifting drink, not
Okay.
Charlie's
All
idea.
right.
Charlie just went along with it because he's, a young, impressionable kid.
Mm.
So I looked at it in a different light, and I was kind of blown away by it, in a lot
I
of
love
ways.
that.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So before we get started, I'll definitely put this in the show notes. But you have a podcast called just not systemic,
Hey,
systematic, systematic
nice.
geekology.
Nice. Yeah.
Give us a little synopsis about your podcast.
Well, we're just, I think there's like 12 or 14 of us now that we all just kind of hang out and and kind of geek out on certain topics, from movies to anime to comic books
Mm-hmm.
to regular books that we're reading. And not always, but sometimes we get into like a philosophy, and then into about half of us are Christian like leaning, so
Mm-hmm.
we and we're all kind of different versions of it, so we all kind of stay respectful of each other, and we try not
Yeah.
to be assholes. So
Yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah,
depending on what you're talking about, it may just come out,
it may
or
just be it. Yep.
may be perceived as
Hmm.
assholishness. Maybe it's
And
just
yeah.
being vigorous,
Hmm. Compassion.
What's do you have a favorite movie that's really spoke to you as you guys have talked about this stuff?
That film from a few years ago, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love that film, man.
Okay.
It speaks to my situation with the way I am spiritually and where I am with my family, and
Mm-hmm.
it just like, wow, like I felt seen that I haven't been in a long time.
Yeah. I haven't seen it, but I think it
Mm,
is on my wish list. I'm
right
trying to
on.
remember.
Yeah.
It won a lot of awards, right? Is
It
that the one
won
that
the best picture for that year. Yeah.
Yeah.
weird,
Well,
quirky movie.
yeah. Well, that sounds like fun. Because doesn't it have a
It's a
lot of
wild
weird,
ride.
yeah, CGI effects, weird
Hmm.
stuff, kind of like
And
Big Fish, maybe.
of rocks with googly eyes and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, rocks with googly eyes. There's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that. So,
yeah.
well, cool. Well, I would definitely watch the movie, and then I'll give you my impressions. But
Cool, cool. Yeah,
I mean, it won awards 2 years ago. Give me time. I'll watch it. So, but yeah, you and I were talking. You still hold on to a little bit of faith, but you've also deconstructed, and why not? Let's talk about it.
right on, right on.
And
Let's go.
let's go from there. So, why don't you tell me where are you from?
I am from South Florida
Mm.
originally. I
Hmm.
was born and raised, but I moved up here to Central Florida in 2009 when I got married to go to school. So I've been here ever since.
Okay, so Florida resident, and tell me about when faith became part of your life, and then what kind of faith, and
Okay.
yeah, give me the rundown.
Cool, cool, yeah. So, so faith was always there, like in some sense of the word. Some of my earliest memories are being in a big church auditorium, and people are screaming and they're dancing and they are singing very charismatic. But then I was probably 5 or 6. Then so one Sunday was that, and then the very next Sunday, I'm in a Sunday school classroom with the felt board and the classroom teacher, and I have friends. I'm like, wait, what happened to all the people screaming? Like, I don't understand what's happening. But now, looking back and reconnecting with my parents and stuff, I found out that they were going through some sort of kind of like a deconstruction, and they
Hmm.
switched from a more charismatic, and they found a Southern Baptist church to go to.
Yeah.
So I vividly, like the sword drills and stuff like that, was like, what is this? I don't
Hmm.
understand.
Sword drills. I know all about
The
sword
sword
drills. Yeah.
drills, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was my experience until until my 20s. I well I got saved probably in first or second grade.
Hmm.
I said the sinner's prayer, and I got baptized, and I did that whole thing. Like, I still remember who my teacher was and the classroom and stuff. So, and but into my 20s, I went to the same church, to the same youth group. And then in my 20s, I started volunteering because I got onto to a video production,
Oh yeah.
because my dad was very inspirational, and he's a drummer and a audio engineer, and he had his studio in our back room, and that kind of inspired me to kind of create with tech and stuff like that. And I
Hmm.
found a video production to be what I liked. And so I did that, and then I did the big jump to a non-denominational church. Like,
Hmm.
so I went there, and they had
Well,
the whole fog machines and stuff.
yeah, I mean that's the thing about non-denoms is that you never know what you're going to get because sometimes I really feel I did the same thing. I mean, I was raised Southern Baptist, and then whenever I kind of got out on my own and went to college and stuff like
Hmm.
that, I just kind of started exploring something else, mainly because let's face it, Baptists are boring. They're just
Hmm.
so boring. I remember my dad being upset at the old people in the church. He was like, the old people would complain about the music and
Yeah.
about how people were wanting to like push in the direction of of, I don't know, something other than a hymn that was written in 1883, and and he said, it's no wonder that that the kids don't want to come whenever it seems kind of dry, and so, well, yeah, and I move out, I'm in my 20s, I'm stupid, kind of backsliding a little bit. You familiar with this term, backsliding? Yeah. Yeah. So but and then eventually, landed on like a non-denominational church, which to me was just, it felt pretty Baptist like, but with drums, and maybe some guitar, which I play guitar, so I was like, yeah, this is great. But yeah, then I've heard other people talk about their non-denominational experience being even more of a production. It's almost like mega church light, and
that's what this was for sure.
Okay, yeah. And so I'm like, wow, that's so interesting, because it's a different experience than what I had. Mine was just slightly better than Baptist, and yours was more toned down from, it sounds like your parents were probably well, you said charismatic, so
At first, yeah.
Makes me wonder about the Calvary Chapel influence down in Florida, because
what's his name? I forgot the guy. Yeah, he had his ponytail, and he had the big. He had the church with the whole skate park and stuff. I used to go and
yeah,
stuff like that. Yeah,
yeah. So okay, so you start. Yeah, I don't know if you think of it. Let me know. We'll do some googling, and make fun of the ponytail. But so you're in your 20s, and you're, obviously the church is also an outlet for you to explore some creative things as well. Once you were doing your unpaid labor, I'm sorry, volunteering.
Exactly. I was being voluntold to do things.
Voluntold, yeah. I did many early mornings in the band, and
did you ever like have to pack up a service in those big black boxes that I'd almost
with the rollers
fingers
and
off?
oh yeah, they're so heavy too. They're like, they got to be a good 300 pounds if you're lucky. Yeah.
So I did that, but I never really questioned my beliefs. I just kind of went along with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I met my wife at this church, and she was in she was someone that I was interviewing for a video production for one of the skits or something, and I was just completely stricken. I was like, "Whoa, who is this?" And I was like, So we went from there, and a few years later, we got married, and we got married, and then 3 years later, we had a kid. This was like 2012, 2013, and that's when things started happening, and there were so many. It was like a perfect storm of personal issues, of family issues, my like a lot of like repressed feelings about. Do you know the term spiritual bypassing?
No, I don't know that term. Spiritual bypassing?
Yeah, when like say something like, "Oh, my dad just died," and then you say, "Oh, but that was just in God's plan."
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that had a term. I've certainly experienced that. Yes,
there you go. It's like you
and
just kind of
said
put a
it
small little
too.
Band-Aid on it. Then you never process things, and then and that kind of built up in like in some ways, and then I had a mental health scare. I had if you don't mind, I'll get a little bit personal, but I had
Please.
a psychosis episode, and I snapped because I was listening to podcasts and things that were kind of questioning and kind of proposing questions, but not in like they are satanic kind of way, because I came from you know, Jesus is God, Trinity, biblical, the term for it, inerrancy,
Yeah, the biblical inerrancy. Yeah.
inerrancy. Yes, that
Mm-hmm.
I I came from that, but there was always a part of me that I would question it, but I would never feed that question. I always
Mm-hmm.
just kind of stuffed it down,
Yeah.
like like I did with pretty much everything else. And and so I snapped, like my um I was in a small group, a church small group, and I just got very passionate about something, and I had a episode, and through therapy and through a lot of things, I had to kind of like I realized I was what some pastor calls a like 12th trimester Christian. Like I was very pregnant with a lot of information
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of theology and just a bunch of knowledge, and but I was
Mm-hmm.
there was no output.
Mm-hmm.
So and 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 that was a real scary moment.
I mean, was it really though that there was no output? I mean, you're serving in the church, you're doing, you know, volunteer
Yeah,
things, and you were
yeah,
driven to do that not just by your interest, but also how can my interest serve, right?
right,
So, I
right.
mean, not
Hindsight's 2020. Yes, of course.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but the were you saying that the pastor was making you feel that way, that maybe
Well, no,
you
no, sorry, no. Like this pastor was just saying an example of something else, and I was like,
okay.
oh, that kind of describes how I went through things, and
Yeah.
but so so, and then I then and then that's and then that kind of sparked some tension with my parents, and because they were they were very shocked because I never rebelled, I never did anything wrong. I think I was spanked once, and I was maybe I didn't get detention till my senior year of high school. I was a very good kid, but I was a good kid because I had so much anxiety, and I was trying to please my parents that I just didn't do anything,
Hmm.
that I did not I never fully expressed myself. And then, like you probably noticed now, I stutter too, but back then was worse. It was so
Hmm.
much worse because I had the pressure of every moment that there was God's judgment. Every single moment was a performance,
Mm.
and it was a pass fail, and I could not I could not bear it, and so my stutter was a big part of that. And um yeah, do you have any questions and stuff from there? No.
Well, so do you feel that with your
It doesn't make
with your
sense.
with your stutter, how, how did your faith play into your stutter? I mean, we all got stuff, like me, as you can tell. I mean, this is a audio podcast, but recording visually, you can tell I'm incredibly good looking, and I have to deal with that a lot. Uh,
Nice. You look nice,
I have
though.
a face for radio, but but no. In all seriousness, I we all have our things that is just part of living, part of
Yeah.
being normal. There's no perfect anybody, but whenever you're brought up in a religious, just in a religious upbringing, that sometimes you can prescribe the the things that's wrong with you because of your fallen nature, original sin, all that kind of
All
stuff.
that
I'm
good stuff.
human, yeah. So did those thoughts enter your head that you had a stutter because of something you did, which is not true, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or
oh,
yeah, that and and I couldn't voice it, but my questioning and my anxiety about things that I learned to wrestle with now, but my I I saw that as like a prison almost now that I
mhm.
think about it, and I do not wish that on anybody.
Yeah.
I don't
I
wish that
mean,
on anybody.
yeah, people should just realize that we just all have our things, and um, try to seek out ways to either mitigate them or, in some cases, completely get them fixed. I have people in my family that have struggled with, various things, anxiety or some depression or something like that.
Mm,
And it's really been quite amazing to see what the right medication can do to get things kind of like get you normal, to the point that I'm
mm,
like, wow, this is kind of fascinating to watch as an outsider. Um,
sure.
because um, yeah, you just see someone change, and I've you'll hear from the more, how do I put this nicely? It's probably not going to come out nicely. Um, the more animated believers think that things like depression and anxiety can just be prayed away, and I've had people
Right.
tell me like, oh, I was healed of that, and I'm like, oh, maybe, or
Good
maybe
for
not,
you. Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
or maybe it was something that just naturally ebbed and flowed through your life, and then you got better. It depends, like a chemical depression, that your brains and uh, your hormones and stuff like that, like that can all play a huge part. And especially like when you're a teenager, holy crap,
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing fires right whenever you're in your teens and early 20s. I'm a big believer of maybe we should wait till about the age of 25 before people can start making decisions, because your prefrontal cortex, which is this decision making part of your
Sure.
brain, it's not
Yeah.
fully formed until you're
Yeah.
25.
Yeah.
Um,
That second puberty didn't
yeah.
hit yet. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why you see people in their late 20s kind of uh they make interesting choices sometimes. Maybe they get like, I'm going to build a business, or I'm going to go, change the world, and it kind of happens around that time. and
Yeah.
and I think it's just because they started to think for themselves, for the
Yeah.
first time ever. So well, okay, so you got one kid?
I I have two kids now, but one kid
Two kids, one kid at the time,
back
so
there. Yeah.
yeah. So, and then, when did your deconstructing process really kind of
Okay.
kick into full
Yeah.
gear? And then what did that look like? Because you got a mix. You got charismatic,
Mm-hmm.
then you got Southern Baptist, and then you got non-denominational, which is like hodgepodge, right? um I will say I was never
Layers.
charismatic, but whenever my wife and the family, whenever we moved to Kansas City, we did try out a charismatic church. Kind of
Yeah.
liked it. She hated it. She was like, I can't go to a church that I cry the whole time.
Oh no. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I kind of liked it because I was like, oh, this is so opposite of like what I grew up with
It
and what
kind
I've
of.
known for a
Yeah.
long time. It's kind
Yeah.
of nice,
Sure.
but it was
Sure.
nice for a change. But anyway, yeah, tell me about your process, about
So
like what started things. I mean,
yeah.
I realize it's a it's an ongoing process. If I were to look back and realize that, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I ask questions here and I ask
Mm-hmm.
questions here, but like you, I also kind of stuffed it down because
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm just going to push that away.
Yeah.
um so
Yeah.
yeah.
When I was a kid, I was always so. The comedian Pete Holmes said something like, "Man, I don't know. When we were kids, some kids they just seemed like they were adults already. Like,
Yeah.
how did they do that?" And
Yeah.
that's how I felt with some kids that would talk about theology and stuff. I'm like, that doesn't sound like what I'm learning in a Bible school. But
Mm-hmm.
how are you? How are you even coming to the conclusion? Like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But but what kind of what the problem was the problem of evil,
Mm.
basically, that was wrapped in. So it was the problem of evil, but I got there by I went to therapy for what I know now is trying to break the cycle of narcissism
Mm-hmm.
in my family. Like, there was a lot of like just just a lot of things that I thought were natural, and I thought was everybody did them, and a very much the machismo way to do things, kind of
Oh, okay.
the ahead of the household is the one that does it all. But my wife is a strong woman and she doesn't take that stuff. So she saw some red flags and she's like, wait a minute.
What a
Whoa.
diplomatic way of putting that.
Yeah.
She doesn't take that stuff.
Yeah. She's like, I don't like that. And then I'm like, you don't like what? I don't know what you're talking about. So, so it hit me when I was in therapy for a few years. I found out the type of man I needed to be for myself and for my kids and for my wife. And that man did not look like God. That man
Mm.
did not look like the God that I knew. The a God that I knew was
Wow.
very angry. He was very bitter. He's like, uh, just uh, just kind of believe me and you'll be fine. Just
Mm-hmm.
shut up and take orders, kind of thing. And from there, that just that kind of fell apart for me. It
Mm-hmm.
like it's like, wait a minute, like what? Like, that trope about not going to therapy, because some fundies say that they don't
Mm-hmm.
go to therapy because they are scared of it or something. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it does happen because you can change, and that changed me to the core.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like like the the man that I want to be would not let things happen to my kids or to my wife.
Yeah.
So if a God is God, he cannot be God because of that. So I had to let go, or that destroyed, or I walked away. I don't know how to describe it. Some days I feel like that I walked away, but some days I feel like it fell apart in front of my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But I lost it. Like, I lost that, and that trickled down to biblical inerrancy, to everything else. And I had I felt I had a, a dark night of the soul. And this was on top of my mental health issues. So my therapist and my doctor, they were both like, yeah, you need to stop listening to podcasts, you need to start reading, you need to just take a break and kind of detox yourself and kind of reset yourself.
Mm-hmm.
um so yeah, so I stopped reading my Bible. I stopped listening to podcasts.
Were
I would
these
watch
like
a movie.
Christian podcasts or were they
Everything.
everything? Just
Christian,
yeah.
non-Christian stuff,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't have a output. Everything was just kind of building up,
Yeah.
and 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 it kind of popped. And
Hmm.
so I had to detox from that all. And it was about it was a few years. It was about three 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 it was about 3 years where, like, on the surface I was still going to church with my family and stuff, but in my head I was just like, nah.
You're just there. Yeah.
Yeah, like nope.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wasn't angry.
Yeah.
I wasn't bitter. I was just I was kind of sad that it took me so long to figure it out. Like
Yeah.
because I had kept my innocence for too long, I thought, and it kind of shattered in a way that I didn't want to, and
Yeah.
I still to this day kind of beat myself up over that, like kind of blame myself, but it's a nature versus nurture thing. Like the people that raised me, I don't think they were they weren't trying to, like, I mean, they could have been, but they were. My parents weren't very strict, but 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 I knew that they knew that being a Christian was like, you can do whatever as long as you're just a Christian, and then you are fine. Like we will listen to music, we can watch movies,
Mm-hmm.
but but the Christian ones are better. So and
It's like a choice between the diet drink or the full sugar, right? Like
yeah,
you can drink the full sugar, but really the diet one, or you know what, you should just have the water.
I lost
Um,
track. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, so it went a few years. And I had to sit with the void. I sit with the void. I didn't because because along with it falling apart was my notion that that I needed to be right about everything. That everything had to be labeled in a box and with a permanent marker, and it, like, grass is green, the sky is
Mm-hmm.
blue. God, like I just, it's the certainty poison where I just absolute certainty, like, um, but then that 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 whole thing I realized was just me trying to control things in life that I had no business in controlling, like my wife and my kids
Mm-hmm.
and certain things like in my job and stuff like that. So I could see it in like other Christians, and to this day, I'm like, that guy struggles kind of with this. Like, I see the whole signs of it. I'm like, oof,
I
oof,
like what you just said, and
yeah,
to the point that I just wrote it down. Certainty
sure,
poison. I've not heard
oh,
that term before,
oof, yeah,
but um, I see this in every
sure,
religious
yeah.
practitioner of everybody that's because
So it's a version of it, yeah.
yeah, I'll ask them, and I've asked this of many different types of believers, Muslims, Christians, and then the subset of Christianity of like Mormons and Jehovah's Witness and all that kind of
Mm,
stuff, and you ask them like, how sure are you of your, that what you believe is true? It's always 100%. Everybody's 100%, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's very interesting.
wow, right?
I mean, I'm what's
Good
known
for
as a
you.
hard, what? Oh,
So
good for you. Yeah.
great.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm what's known as a hard atheist, meaning
Okay.
that I just do not believe
Sure.
anymore that there are any gods, but because I approach it from a show me, show me something, show me proof, I always leave room to be corrected,
Yeah.
so now I have some allowance for uncertainty, and I don't really understand what the Christian, like the evangelical drive to like anytime you tell somebody, you're an atheist, they'll be like, well, how do you think we got here? I'm like, I don't know, and I don't fucking care.
No,
you
yeah.
know I mean, it's
But
not
you always go
that
there
was
so fast. Like,
yeah, they go there like, wow, you just went straight for it. And I'm
yeah,
like, let me
like,
tell you,
what
I
are you
I
doing?
don't know. I've read some interesting things where
Yeah.
people way smarter than me have come up with some ideas, and they have their rationale, and it's usually driven by mathematical models
Hmm.
that they can point to be like, this is our evidence.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's interesting. It's nothing set in stone. And maybe as time moves on, that we develop methods and technology that allows us to learn even more.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know, and I don't care because I'm going to
I
die,
don't
and I'm
care.
I'm going to be forgotten in at least two generations. Well, my
Right.
current
Yeah.
generation and my kids,
That kind of
and
blows my mind, right? Yeah.
and no one will care.
Hmm.
So, and it's so weird that they like the creation, like we know
We
the
know. Like,
god spoke it,
do we
even though I don't
though?
know what that means. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, well, you're very certain, but
Yeah.
I've been confidently incorrect many times in my life, so it
Yeah.
is
But
possible, right? No, it's 100% sure.
right.
So
It's true because a 2,000-year-old book that's been translated from 4 languages 12,000 times says so. It's like, no,
and
no.
that's just this book, right? That's
Right.
that. I mean, I got a stack
But
of them.
those
I got a whole bunch of different
but those
things in
books
here.
don't count.
Oh, those don't count. Yeah.
Those are
So,
Catholic books.
well, I mean, I do have a Catholic Bible. It's my study
What?
Bible. Yeah.
No.
So, yeah. Well, because as a Southern Baptist, we were always taught
It's
that
off limits.
it was called the Apocrypha, which
Yes, right.
is
Yep.
really kind of a slur in a lot of ways. The
I
other
took it as that.
more,
I
yeah,
used it as that for sure.
yeah, so yeah, so I was right because apocryphal, like just in the name, if you
Mm,
break down the word, it basically means that it prescribes some sort of mythology to it. Not fully true.
yeah.
And so I was always taught that, well, these are important, but they're not like biblical canon. However, we never read them, and so one of my kids, we read through the Bible, like this is just a thing. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
let's
Sure.
read through this, but we'll treat it as
Harry
as
Potter or something like that.
not right, yeah, like
Yeah.
Game of Thrones or
Hmm.
Lord of the Rings, that kind of
Right.
stuff. It's
Sure.
it's fantasy, whatever. Well, and I said, but I really want to read the deuterocanonical books. That's the
Heyo.
proper term. Yeah, I wanted to read those because I never read them, and I'm like, well,
Nice.
sounds like I'm missing out. So one of the YouTube debaters that I really like, he mentioned this particular Catholic study Bible, and I'm like, and he also mentioned that it was translated by the guys that translated. They didn't really interject they're just like, this is just what it says, and then here are the study notes to go along with it, and
Hmm.
you can take it or leave it. And I'm like, well, that sounds all right. I think I'm going to go that route. And it's been a lot more entertaining to read when you don't believe than
Oh,
than
100%.
you know
100%.
than whenever I thought everything, because really biblical inerrancy for me was really the last straw, because once I figured out some
Yeah.
things that were not inerrant, um, that wasn't what started it. I think suffering was what started it. The problem
Sure.
of
Sure.
suffering for believers.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, biblical inerrancy was the nail on the head. Once I figured out that the Noah's Ark story was
It was a
a
copy
cop,
almost. Yeah.
yeah, it was inspired,
Inspired. Right. Sure.
from an older, much older
But
story, and I was
isn't
like,
it
oh man.
fascinating? It's fascinating that just that simple idea, we were so deep into it that's just a copy or just a inspiration was what brought it down. It's like that's just so natural. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's how you write stories. they
That's how you write stories. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
like
you're. Can I call you a cinephile? Will that work? Will that you're a movie fan, right? So
no, the correct term is cineast.
a cineast. Oh, okay. Oh,
Yes,
well, see,
I think that's how you pronounce it. So,
I
and I
love
said that
learning new things.
completely
So
with my tongue in my cheek. So.
okay, so got it. Well, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah,
you can't. You watch enough, movies and TV shows, and then you start seeing patterns of
yeah,
like, oh, well,
pretty
this is
natural.
just like whenever the Harry Potter films came out, there was these memes that was equating Harry Potter to Star Wars,
Right.
and showing about like, okay, well, you've got this young kid who dreams of like better things, and he's got a special wand and all these other kind of things. I'm like, yeah, they are really similar, aren't they? Whenever
They,
you boil it down to some basic plot devices and things here and there, you're like, oh shit, yeah, those are kind of the same movie, aren't they? you know but and I think the same of the Bible. And it sounds like that you were starting to deconstruct the inerrancy aspect as well.
yeah,
What were there any things, Noah's Ark excluded, that made you go, oh, this
the
really shakes me
sign
to my
on
core?
top of Jesus on the cross.
Yeah.
How we don't know? Like, there's what, like three? There's three different versions of it. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no, we know what it says, right? Because we just know, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, because these stories were most likely created post the fact, and they would apply this kind of storytelling to like to
Mm-hmm.
Jesus. So, and I was like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah. Have you ever? There's this website that I stumbled across that I wish they'd update it for mobile so that way it worked better on phones. But it's, I think it's easterquiz.com. Yeah,
Okay.
Easter quiz. Yeah, it's a multiple choice thing where it goes through and it says, first question: who came to the tomb on Sunday morning? One woman, two women, three women, more than three women. Every answer is correct.
Yes, right. Yes, I love that. Yes,
And I think that
that's fun.
I don't, it's a pretty short little website, but
Yeah, that's a
there are
lot of
other
control
things.
right there. I like
Yeah.
that.
um, like there's other things about when Jesus was crucified. You should look that up because
Oh
it's pretty
no, yeah,
interesting. Yeah, it's like
yeah.
there's
Like,
two different
is it
accounts at two
Friday,
ridiculously different times.
a Jewish Friday, or the regular Friday calendar? Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What I've come to with that is like, oh, it's it's like I kind of equate it to how cruises are 2 nights and 3 days or something like that.
yeah, yeah, but you can't check in till 3.
Exactly.
I always feel that way every time I stay in a hotel. It's like, well, you stay in one night, and I'm
Confused.
like, yeah, but I can't get in till 3, and they want me out by 11. I'm like, that's not even, it's not even a day. So,
Yeah. So yeah. So I started coming back to some sort of, because I knew that I wanted to come back to some kind of online presence again, because
mhm.
because I like podcasts and stuff like that. It's where I got my entertainment. So I
I do too.
downloaded it. Yeah, back in the day, 20 years ago, and everything was free, so
hmm
it was it was pretty cool. But so I downloaded just one podcast, and then it was a comedy podcast called Pete Holmes. You Made It Weird,
hmm
because my doctor said, hey, you knew, if you want to get back into thinking and into kind of into kind of processing, you need to start with something kind of light. So I said, oh yeah, comedy is fine.
hmm
So I just searched a comedy podcast, and
Yeah, and he's funny too. So,
he's he's very funny, but what I did not know is that he was maybe a few years in front of me with his deconstruction from
Mm-hmm.
evangelical Christianity. And he starts bringing on people and they start talking about spiritual things. I'm like, oh no, oh no, oh no.
Here
Like,
we go.
uh
Yeah.
oh, uh oh. So a lot of my like, oh no, like I don't want to get tainted and I don't want to not believe somehow. But then I started learning from just everybody that he had on, from super woo woo people to some Muslims, and I just started learning from there. And then I had he had on a Bible scholar, Pete Holmes, Pete Enns. Pete
Oh
Enns.
yeah, Pete Entz. Yes,
Do you know Pete Enns? Great.
I was I've been reading. I'm going to try to finish it, but The Evolution of Adam.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I made it halfway through. I made it through the Adam stuff. But when we get, I made it through the Old Testament discussion.
Okay.
But when we get to the New Testament discussion, he kind of starts to lose me a little bit
Sure.
because I feel like he shifted the goalpost a little bit. Like, oh, well, obviously the Old Testament is made up, and there's a lot of a lot of stories to tell,
Yeah,
lessons,
that's
and
his
so
take on
forth.
it.
Yeah, but the New Testament totally true. And I'm like,
Really?
I mean,
Is that what you got from it?
that's what I got from it. Again, I haven't
Interesting.
finished
Okay.
it, so I'm
Okay.
not. Well, that's just how I look at things, right? I'm
Sure.
like, well, how can you look at the Old Testament and say that, and then you've got the New Testament, which points to the Old Testament, and he tries to explain it away a little bit.
Yeah.
Like Jesus talks um, uh, about the days of Noah. So he makes a Noah reference,
Okay.
and then,
Oh,
and
right,
Paul
right.
talks about Jesus being the first Adam,
Hmm.
which then puts you into this uncomfortable thing. I'll finish it so that way I can speak clearly, to the whole book, because it's not fair for me to criticize completely, but it did make it a little bit difficult for me to
Okay.
continue because I felt like there was a lot of um oh, dude, I just really felt like he's just coming along with the presupposition that the Jesus is God. That's totally true. That God's real. Like he's coming along with that presupposition, and then say, well, we start with this. Suppose God is real. How do we reconcile the Old Testament and then Paul's teachings and Jesus's teachings? How do we reconcile all that? And that's where he kind of started to lose me a little bit. But I will finish so that way I don't.
That's fascinating because his he was the one that got me onto the fact that the New Testament wasn't historical in the sense of this is what Jesus said, but
Mm-hmm.
more the fact of this is what the writers put in his mouth.
Yeah,
So I never saw it like that before,
yeah.
and it kind of checks out. I'm like, oh, okay. And Matthew does it very hard. Like he goes hard in the paint with a lot of allegory, and like a blatant examples of how he is divine, whereas
Mm-hmm.
the other gospels they don't do it so much as Matthew does.
Mm-hmm.
So I always thought that was kind of fascinating. Like, oh, okay, so he's just trying to tell a story, and that's okay. So, through that, and then the Bad Christian podcast from the guys from Emory, because I was always into music, into Christian music, but I was always into the CCM stuff, and then
Okay.
towards my later years, like I was a late bloomer, where I got into the tooth and nail stuff,
Yeah.
and that whole scene
Mm-hmm.
that kind of took over. But
Well, at least you got into a decent scene. I mean,
yeah,
the tooth and nail. See, I'm older than you,
sure,
but I was around whenever tooth and nail like came to be, right?
right
And
on,
I was
right on.
talking with somebody else on another podcast about a band called the Crucified. So they were like a hardcore, like punk influence band, and then like
Yeah.
later at least the singer left to form Stavesaker. And
Yes, love
and
Stave
fun
Saker.
fact, my band opened for Stavesaker once
Heck yeah,
at the
dude.
probably the smallest, most unattended show that you'll ever see
Love
or never see. It was great.
it.
But the but yeah, like that scene, at least you had something, that
Yeah,
wasn't I don't know, it wasn't
right. Like
CCM's weird. Like if you really like, it's its own thing.
its own
And
subculture.
yeah, and I was surrounded by it growing up, like some Michael W. Smith and Stephen Curtis
Hmm.
Chapman, which those guys are old now,
Yeah,
but that was always on in the house because mom and dad always had like Christian
hmm,
radio playing a lot.
right, right.
And so so I was happy whenever that kind of stuff came around, because I was like, oh well, this isn't mom and dad's music. And and
Mm,
it was still acceptable, sorta. I did have to fight tooth and nail to
yeah,
be able to listen to it. But it is what it is, right? So,
yeah.
but in the bands these days, they're starting to get a little bit. Sometimes you find some mainstream bands. Like there was a band that played last year that I didn't get to see them, called Demon Hunter. Are you familiar with Demon Hunter? Yeah. So I was.
Very
It,
familiar with
it
them.
was my
Yes.
daughter's birthday, and was like, "Damn it, I want to go see this band," But I didn't get a chance. But
Yeah,
and um, Okay. See, I told you ahead
I
of time.
went
We'll get
to
distracted, and then like I'll go
yeah,
all over the place, and here
I
we are.
went to a
So,
show for my. It was my first a metal show, and it was Demon Hunter as
mhm.
I lay dying, and didn't and do you know Living Sacrifice?
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
Living Sacrifice.
yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody else on Threads the other day about Living Sacrifice.
There
So
you go. There
yeah,
you go.
yeah, because I saw them play, but this was um,
Early.
before, yeah, earlier, yeah,
Yeah,
like things were a lot different. So, and
yeah.
if I'd have thought about it, so I grew up in like southeast Kansas, southwest Missouri, and they're from Arkansas, so that they're right there.
Oh, cool.
If
Yeah.
we'd have had like the internet back then, maybe it would have been easier to find shows, and I could have
Oh my
maybe saw
gosh,
them more.
I
That
did
would have
not
been great.
know, but 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 in South Florida there was a huge hardcore scene, and apparently I was right in the middle of it, and I had no idea.
Hmm.
I was like, "What? Where was this? I wish I knew about the what in the world?
Yeah, how did I miss
How would I
this?
know about these bands until later? Like,
Yeah.
dang,
One of the other things that kind of gets me, and you were talking earlier about God and the man you wanted to be,
yeah,
and um, John 1:1. In the
yeah,
beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. I hope I said that right.
I think
You
so."
know, um, so this is the other thing that kind of really got me to go, okay, because you'll talk to Christians, they'll be like, oh, that was in the Old Testament, things were different back then, whatever. And I'm like, but if you believe John 1:1 to be true, that does mean that Jesus was there and he was cool with all that stuff.
He was
You know,
the word, right? Yeah.
yeah, if he was the Word and from the beginning, then how do I go about reconciling Jesus as a nice guy? Um, and that one's a harder one to digest, and
Yeah,
I
for
don't
sure.
think people necessarily think about that so much.
No, because of the whole
Um,
Trinity thing, like because he
yeah,
just is, because
yeah,
he's a part of the Trinity, and I've learned to be like the Trinity is kind of BS. Like why do I need to figure this out? Like who
yeah,
cares? Like he's like, I don't like to leave things up to mystery too much, but still, it's like we're spending too much of our time trying to figure this out. Like,
Yeah.
who cares? And I just now, just like maybe last week, from from a live podcast I was on, I found a word that is like, oh, that's how I feel about the Trinity, and it's ideaphora, where it's basically there's not enough evidence in the Bible either way for this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
because the Trinity was created 100 years after, but some people would say that it was always there and we were just figuring out the truth later. I said, nah, dude, the Trinity was made 100 years after Jesus's time. Like, the Bible writers had no idea what a Trinity was. They have no idea
Mm-hmm.
because they did not have a need for it, and that kind of felt validating because I was like, oh, phew, like I don't have to figure this stuff out either. Good, like I can still be cool with it and just but yeah, but but that
Right. But if you and I know very
yeah,
well that if you come from this
yes,
place of it's both inerrancy and then I don't know what role evangelicalism plays in this. And I've realized in talking with guests that my experience as a Southern Baptist growing up in 80s and 90s is different than like a evangelical growing up in the 90s and the
the 2000s,
2000s,
sure,
you know, like it, late 90s to 2000s on, because like recently my wife and I went through the Shiny Happy People season 2 and they talked about teen
yeah,
mania, and I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know what teen mania is because that came kind of after me,
yeah,
but I know the foundations of it because I
mhm.
saw a lot of that stuff whenever I was growing up. And if I said the Power Team, do you know who that is?
I very much do know the Power Team.
Okay. Yeah.
Very much so. I
Right.
had a friend that was their a production manager.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And what a production it is.
What a production! A lot
But
of phone books.
yeah, a lot of phone books, and so like that was, that was kind of my era growing up, but you don't hear
Sure.
about them a lot. But then after watching that Teen Mania documentary series, I was like, oh, they just like integrated it into like a whole entire youth movement. Between that and then, did you do some Teen Mania? Were you involved in that
No,
in any
I
way?
was
No.
not involved, but I saw it from the sidelines, and I was kind of jealous.
Oh yeah, jealous,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah,
Because it looks
because
like,
it's so cool. It's like you're
yeah,
having a great time. It's like, but I
yeah.
didn't want to suggest to do it because I didn't want to show my, like I didn't want to be a nuance. Like, hey mom, why don't we go to this church instead of this church? And like, I
Hmm.
didn't want to be that kid, so I never brought it up. But my wife
Yeah.
had some of that experience. Yeah,
Oh yeah. Well, if you ever get a chance to watch that, and I don't
I
know if you
want to
have.
see it. I want to
Okay.
see it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
There are two seasons,
you
right? Two.
so there's two seasons. The first one is about the Duggar family,
Oh,
and
that's right. That's
I
right.
can't watch anything about kids getting abused, anything. It's not something my body can handle.
Thank
So,
you. Yeah.
and but the second season, I'd heard a lot about it. Heard it was about Teen Mania. I'm like, okay, I think I can get past that because I didn't hear a lot of that stuff involved as far as like any kind of like sexual impropriety. I didn't hear a lot of that. But
Right. Right.
I can't deal with that stuff with the kids. It's just it kills me.
There's a
It
line.
it
Yeah.
destroys me. And but yeah, I highly recommend it because you might be glad that you
It
didn't
dodged the bullet. Yeah.
participate. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, they might have used something like a stutter against you, from
I remember back then there was called there was a documentary called Camp Jesus. Do you remember that?
Cam Jesus.
Camp Jesus.
No.
It was a camp where they were trying to build some soldiers up for Christ and
Jesus camp. Jesus camp. I
Jesus
think it's
camp.
yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
I
That I remember coming out and being like, oh, what? Like
yeah.
they are trying to bring down Christianity. What are they talking about?
Hmm. Right. See, that's the thing is that whenever you're in it, everything's an attack.
It's an attack,
You know.
and that's the high functioning acceptable narcissism that is
Hmm.
just wide out in the open. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, now I see that stuff and I'm like, it drives me crazy. Like, how do you allow that kind of stuff in, like, because we see it in our current climate, and like, how do you allow it, but you don't allow your your dad to be that way? Like,
Hmm.
I,
Uh, you know, um, there were things that I had to deal with whenever I was still a believer as a dad that threw me for a loop. So, discipline, like, how do you discipline a kid the right way? Oh, the right way, right? And, there's, I mean, I was raised, like you mentioned, you got one spanking. Good for you. You were a better
one,
kid than me, you know. But we, we had issues with one of our kid that didn't talk a whole lot, and sometimes would nevertheless she persisted whenever you would tell her not to do something,
there you go.
and then eventually we got her tested for ADHD, right? And whenever we did that, there was this he was a student, but he was like a student training to be a therapist or whatever. And we talked about
Right,
discipline,
right.
and then he like laid out the evidence for him. We talked about spanking, and he said, well, how's that working out? I'm
Mm,
like, honestly, not working out at all, like, and he's like, well, let me show you some data. And then he showed me some data about how, like, spanking really doesn't work, and then I had to like confront the reality of like hard data that's been examined by,
right.
yeah, versus what I was taught that's how discipline is supposed to happen within Christian life, and we just abandoned it completely. And all I got for abandoning spanking is a better relationship with my children, them not fearing me, because I don't really want them to fear me. I want them
Oh,
to be
good.
able to
Yeah,
come to me and discuss things,
exactly. Exactly.
openly and honestly. And um, it kind of goes back to that thing, like, well, if I'm trying to be, a good man, but then I have this model for me that seems to go against what I think a
Yeah.
good man, person, whatever is. How do I reconcile that? And it's just like the mental gymnastics that you have to do to like make things work. Sometimes gets to be too much, and you just
It's
say,
either mental gymnastics or you just don't deal with it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
well, everybody makes their choices, and we,
Yeah.
like I said, we chose to
That's the
deal with
thing.
it by not
Everything's a
incorporating in our
choice.
life. Yeah,
Everything's a
yeah.
choice. That's one thing that I had to learn. Like, okay, we like, I learned like I went into the a dark night of the soul because I realized that the nihilists were right. Like, nothing has meaning. I'm like, because I took God out of it, and then
Hmm.
there was nothing. I had nothing. So then then I learned about existentialists and how the father of existentialism was Kierkegaard, and he was a Christian that was a he was basically fighting fundamentalism, but in the like 30s. And I
Hmm.
was like, whoa. So so I had to like part of me wanted to learn everything and to rebuild everything, but then I had to remember that that the only reason why I was coming back to like some kind of faith or to some kind of
Mm-hmm.
was because of me, because I wanted to. It's not
Mm.
because I read something and that convinced me, or I
Yeah.
had some dream, or no. I I wanted to come back because I saw the value in how how it could be done right, but I knew there was a way to do it that wasn't like there's nothing new under the sun. So I knew that there was a way to fall that wasn't the same way, and that was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like finding out that Christians that I don't believe the Bible is inerrant. It wasn't a shocking thing after a while. It's like
Yeah.
there are some people that just don't do that, or the divinity of Christ is like that's a very it's a very of like fluctuating idea.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of God is like I said, it's everything's kind of made up, and right, yeah,
Right.
like
Yeah. And I mean literally everything. If you think about it, like all
everything
the
is
words that we prescribe to things that have meaning, or,
100%,
know,
hundred
or,
percent.
like I really enjoy the slander of the, not to get too much into politics, but I can just say from an observation about people that are pretty far right,
Mm-hmm.
they'll say things about like blue haired liberals. And I'm
Oh,
like,
right, yeah,
why do you give two shits about what color somebody's hair is?
right.
Whenever I was growing up, the blue haired people, they were the old ladies that came to church, because they were more purple rather than blue,
Yeah,
but,
that yeah, that faint purple, yeah,
yeah.
and
And I'm like, why does that matter? Like, what does
yeah,
that prescribe to anything of their, it's just some sort of really terrible ad
correlation
hominem
with
attack.
people with
Yeah.
causes.
Yeah. It's like, well, what does that have to do with anything? Who cares about your hair, or a septum piercing?
Yeah,
Who cares?
sometimes a
I mean,
coin on the floor is just a coin
just a
on the
coin.
floor.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like,
It's
uh and in all fairness, I'll say that, people on the left, talking
there's that
about,
pendulum swing. Yeah.
yeah, talking about like, people that really like guns, for instance. I'm like, let me tell you what, there are people that like guns that aren't crazy. They just like the feeling of shooting and trying to hit something.
Sure,
That's
yeah.
all it comes down to.
Yeah,
It's
that
just
whole satisfaction of that, yeah.
right. It's a Nerf gun on steroids. Just
Yep,
slightly
yep.
more dangerous. And so,
Whoopsies.
it would be nice if we could reconcile these differences. But whenever you think in such hard, like you're wrong because you believe that way, which I know I'm being really hypocritical right now. But whenever you
No,
think
no.
like that, it tends to
There's
lead to division.
yeah,
So,
yeah. And I don't like to say this much, but Jordan Peterson said something, and I kind of agree with him. And like, you cannot exist outside of your own existence. So I took that to heart. I'm like, yeah, we make everything up because we are just existing here now. I I don't
so
know if
you
there's a
can't
God.
exist outside of your existence, like
You can't know
your
outside.
mind. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't know what is outside of your existence. Like, we only have our experiences and
Mm-hmm.
our way that we process the world at that current moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I I I understand that idea,
Hmm.
because I like to go along with the idea that God is imaginary because really you can't prove it outside of what you believe,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And um, and I know because I came from a place where I was absolutely certain that I was right until I didn't have that certainty anymore.
Mm.
And you know, even I was talking the other day online, and I my deconstruction will probably be ongoing and forever.
Oh,
Even
same.
though
Well,
I've deconverted, and you've kept some faith,
that,
right?
yeah,
So
like
you know,
the so that was one thing that there was a lot of topics that I like I want to know about, like, but 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 I know that eventually I will get there to a certain knowledge, and I don't have to be so OCD and so obsesses over it, because then
yeah.
that kind of triggers a lot of stuff in me, and then I get back into my old ways of thinking.
Hmm.
But the way that I see it is, it was only called deconstruction because we were told to not do it, because it was so scandalous to question things
Yeah.
without the safety net of Jesus. Like,
Hmm.
Jesus is not always the answer.
Yeah.
Like, Sunday school does not apply to your whole world. It just does not.
That's true.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really good. Um, yeah, the deconstructing kind of being an ongoing thing. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I like you. I hope to get to a point where it's just. I think I'm actually starting to get there now because there was a
Good.
period of time where I
Congratulations.
was
Good.
I felt like it was all day every day where I'm like,
Yeah.
I'd already dropped it,
So, yeah.
but I still couldn't get past it. And now it's pretty much limited to just online interaction things. But
Yeah.
the good
Yeah.
part is that I've started to become a little bit more flexible with understanding that people are going to have some belief, but as long as they're not um, being like evangelicals are, because they're the worst. I mean,
Hmm.
I have a stack. You can't see it, but I have a stack over
Evangelical
there.
fundamentalism.
Yeah. So I have these materials that my daughter works at a retail store, and so people will just hand her shit all the time,
Oh
pamphlets
God,
and
I
stuff like that.
that drives me nuts.
And I'm just like, like one of the good things about me being forced to go out and talk to people about Jesus whenever I was younger. I mean, complete strangers in a mall, when I was young to do that, is that it taught me that I can talk to anyone. And I
Mm.
really feel pretty confident that I can strike up a conversation in real life with just about anyone and, like, converse and shoot the shit and, like, find some sort of common ground while we're talking and then
There
find a
you
way
go.
to, keep that conversation rolling along, which then opens the door to, some other deeper aspects. So that's great. And I think that that was enabled in part because I was
Yeah.
forced to go out and talk to people.
Hmm.
But now I realize how absolutely annoying that is because,
People just want to
my
live their
daughter
life.
my daughter does not believe, and also she's working
Yes.
and people are coming up to her and saying things. And people, when you're at home, you just kind of, I don't want to open the door. I don't want to talk to anybody. I mean, honestly, if some Mormons came by, I'd probably go out and talk to them for a little while just to have some fun. But
I
generally
had a
speaking,
fun one
I
with them. Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to talk to salespeople. I don't want to talk to religious people. I'm in my castle, right?
Yeah.
And then you realize, like, oh, even though it was good in a way because I learned some skills, it's also bad in a way because you don't want those skills to be like, here, I'm just going to be
Yeah.
annoying.
And
um
that the other person is just there to as a product for you to fix. It's like
Well,
that
yeah,
is so ridiculous. Like,
yeah.
you need
Well,
to
they
save them. I don't need to save them. Like,
yeah, and it's just like a checkbox. Like, okay, we got you
I
saved. We're
said
on to
this.
the
I said
next
that.
one. Yeah, yeah. The I watch these two guys. They both deconstructed. This guy's named Mezzo. He's got a YouTube channel,
Yeah, sounds
and then
familiar.
he's got a friend named Joel. Joel reads Bible, and they're both atheist, and they have a atheist Sunday school on Sunday mornings. Like, you can watch their video, and
Yeah,
anyone can call atheist, believer, it doesn't matter. Other times they do debates where they're only looking for people that believe in
sure, sure.
some sort of God, and just talk about it. And what I like so much about Mezzo is that he's so gentle and not abrasive,
Yeah,
and I'm so envious. I'm just like, I wish I was like Mezzo. I wish I,
yes,
and maybe I'll get there.
right. I feel the same way on
Um, and this
other
was going somewhere that I totally forgot. Hold on, let me think for a second. So, yeah,
topics we were on.
Mezzo, yeah, the topics about proselytizing and
Hmm.
and things of that nature, and it'd be better if you could have forums for a discussion, kind of like a show where you can go on and
Yeah,
and really
yeah.
just talk about things rather than having to create a checklist. I'm just trying to win these things. But back and
Mm.
forth, him and Joel, they talk about their tally, about getting people
Oh,
to get
really?
deconverted. They call it the tally. They're just
That's
joking,
funny.
and
That's
then they'll be like,
funny.
no, I get points. One of them will say, like, no, I get points for that one,
Yeah.
and but
Nice.
it's really not terribly different from how evangelicals can be whenever you get out there and be like, we need
Mm.
to push and get these numbers up. So it's
Yeah,
pretty
and
interesting to think that way.
yeah, it's the thinking of it's the thought of the other. Like someone said that when like Jesus says, "Love your enemy," but wait, why do we have to have enemies?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to have enemies. We just gonna love them.
Yeah.
Like, love them
Yeah.
for who they are, and from the way that they tell you that they would want to be loved, because that takes you out of that equation. And I had to learn that as a narcissist, that I
Mm-hmm.
should not be putting myself into everything.
I hadn't really thought about the connection between. I mean, I realize there's clinical narcissism, and then there's just someone who's really, self-centered,
Yeah,
right? I hadn't really thought about the connection until now between that and certain types of religion.
sure.
Because there are some denominations that I don't see that. They seem to be very giving and loving,
Yes, exactly.
and even I was surprised that I noticed that this week that one of the churches that, um, well, the last church that we attended before it all
Okay.
went away, I saw on social media locally that they had done a drive and that they gave, some food. They did like a food drive, and they
Nice.
donated it to this organization that my family has participated of outside of church, right?
Oh, right on.
Where they help people that they have needs, and
Right
whether
on.
it's food or maybe some clothing or something like that. It's called a Turning Point.
Hey.
And I was really like happy by that because I've been a little dissatisfied with the church's response to just, let's just call it, current events these days, uh, and
Oh,
I've been very
so do I.
frustrated.
Yeah.
And so
Same.
whenever I saw something like that, I'm like, oh, finally somebody did something.
Yeah,
Which
what
is
did Mr.
funny
Rogers
because,
say?
what
Mr.
was that?
Rogers says when there's a disaster, you need to look for the people helping. Like there's always
Mm.
people helping. There's
Yeah.
always when there's something bad, there's always a equal and opposite reaction
Yeah.
of the good.
Yeah.
So it's our choice to be focused on one thing or the other. But it's very nice when it's brought up in your face and you are reminded that things are not so black and white.
Yeah. Yeah. I
It's
agree.
very nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So where are you at today then? You've got a smidging, you've got some faith still, a belief in
Yeah,
something.
I have faith because I want to have faith.
Okay.
It's
That's
not
honestly the most
theological.
honest answer I've ever heard.
Dude,
You
like
know?
I can't do because I'm not smart enough to give some huge apologetics thing, and
Mhm.
I'm not dumb enough to realize I know everything. So, and I've never had one of those like experiences where God talked to me and stuff. It's like I just I do it because I want to,
Yeah.
and 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 there's nothing new under the sun. There is always going to be someone else like you, not just like you, but like you, and to me that's a very it's very comforting because when I hear like on social media when the stuff that gets me is the fundies they go after the atheists or the progressives as they don't they don't they don't love the Bible or they're not happy if they don't have God. Like
Yeah.
that is the most ridiculous thing you could ever think of. It's like, no, there are things outside of your there are people living their lives too. And their life does not contradict yours. You just like I know that the idea of trying to not be so to be so black and white and for a while I thought about being a atheist, but I did not have the confidence to be one. I was just like, no, I don't know enough to say no to God. You know,
Hmm.
I was like, I
I,
don't know enough.
well, and I think that, in part because you want it, and in part because it's probably just still innately in you. I don't really feel like my atheism was a choice.
Sure.
And I've heard other atheists say the same thing because once you get to this point where I can't make myself believe something that for me, for the standards that I hold about, what I consider to be acceptable, they just weren't there anymore. I
Yeah.
was agnostic for a good 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then after that, I'm like,
two
no, I
weeks.
just, I
Nice.
just don't see this. I just don't see it at all. And I tried to hold on, but I was just fighting a sinking ship at that point because it was just so ingrained into me about um, I kind of do need the evidence. That's the thing,
Oh
but
yeah.
I don't have a problem with those who in a way use it almost like a meditative practice,
Hmm.
because I really do kind of feel like it's
There's
kind
some
of that
value in that
way,
for sure.
but if you start coming to me and be like, listen, Jesus can heal things like limbs and things of that nature, I'm going to want to see the receipts. Okay, you tell me that like so and
There
so was
usually aren't
healed.
any.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to need to see some evidence. Uh and that's just how I am.
Yeah, yeah,
But I'm comfortable. Sounds like you're comfortable. I think we can get along.
yeah.
This is all right. And it's like I did go to a No Kings protest, and I ran into a
Oh,
guy that
sure.
had I don't know what church this was Church of Christ maybe or something like that, but it was like the chalice,
Okay.
but it had rainbow colors. It's the
Mm-hmm.
chalice with the cross, so whatever denomination that is,
Mm-hmm.
and like the cross was inside the cup, and it had the rainbow colors on it, and I may have been wearing this shirt, which is
Yes.
the Satan
I was
loves you
gonna
the way you
say,
are. Yeah.
where'd you get that from?
Oh, I got it. It was a website I think called Wicked Clothing or something like that,
I
and
knew it. I knew it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
used to work
So,
for the a warehouse that distributed those shirts.
oh, that's awesome. That's
Yep.
great. So, I often get compliments when I wear it out. But anyway, so
They got
here
some
I
good stuff.
am. I'm doing No Kings. This guy's with me, and I said, well, I'm kind of on the other side. He was like, that's okay. We're together against something that is a greater threat to both of us.
Bingo.
And I was like, yeah, I can go along with that.
Hell
And
yeah.
so I'm willing to form those bonds, and
Right
not
on.
in real, because I think the greater threat is, Christian nationalism, this
Mm-hmm.
fundy evangelicalism um, that if they were to take a good hard look, like both you and I have done, you would find that a lot of this stuff just falls apart. If
Complete.
you want to say like, well, I think God exists because I just feel it and I don't really have a good argument for or against it, so I'm just going to roll with it. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. You know, versus the ones that are doing things that really hinders everyone, lots of people's lives, through
Exactly.
force. I'm not cool with that. So,
Yeah. Once you start trying to like affect other people that don't that that don't think like you, I don't
hmm
care what religion you are, but you got to stop that. Like,
yeah,
stop
yeah.
that.
And me, I try to poke the bear a little bit to try to get people to think, because I know how much it takes
Yeah.
whenever you're really deep into it, that you kind of need to be jolted. I'm not saying my
Yes.
approach is good at all. Um,
Yeah, and
you know,
I had to learn that too because when I try to come back, I had to bring it. I wanted to bring it back like in a way that wasn't so perfect,
mm,
and so I got into memes, and I found some Christian meme groups that were like that. They kind of let me kind of feel myself around
yeah,
and kind of create things that were imperfect and to kind of rage bait, but not rage bait.
yeah,
Like that it needs to be controversial, but that just needs to be said. So
yeah,
I think
exactly.
it's
And
different than
there's
rage
probably
bait.
a subreddit. There's probably a subreddit there,
Yeah,
out there with perfect memes, to pick from. And as much as I hate generative AI, let's face it,
is there?
you could use it to maybe make some funny memes.
Mm-hmm.
Although I have copied verses of the Bible and thrown them into image generation stuff, and then they would tell me that we cannot make this image because it violates our terms of service. It has nothing to
Whoa,
do with the religion. It had everything to do with the verses that I put in there were very violent,
nice.
and I was like, boy, that
There
should
you
tell you
go.
something.
There
Even the
you go.
machines don't like this book because it's so violent.
Yeah, even the machines.
Anyway,
Neo's back
well,
there.
yeah. Uh, this has been a great discussion, and I'm glad that
Thank you,
we could, hook up and, hopefully, continue talking and go from there. So,
man. And but first of all, or last of all, is it Gene X or Gen X?
it's kind of a portmanteau, so it's a little bit of
I
both.
love it. I love it.
So it's kind of accident because I tried to get uh, just gin with the letter X.
Yeah.
That wasn't available.
Okay.
So I added an E, and then there we go. And I'm like, oh, this is great. And then somebody called me Gene one day, and I was like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, oh,
There
well,
you
that's because, the socials didn't allow me to capitalize things. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to roll with this.
go.
This is fantastic,
That's
you know?
awesome.
So, yeah, and here I am. So,
Thank you, man.
well, I tell
Because
you what, I probably won't be down in Florida anytime soon. because it's too muggy.
It's
But
too Florida.
yeah, it's too Florida. But you never know. If I get close, I'll hit you up. You can show me this hardcore scene that apparently you missed out on.
Yeah, I always heard that there was a cool place out in the Everglades to go watch shows, but I was like, in the Everglades, why they would you?
Yeah,
Yes,
go out and
a bunch of punk
hang.
kids out there.
Yeah, hang out with the alligators.